Hi, folks, and welcome to a more civilized age. As you see, I am joined by my regular. Actually, I don't have my regular guest. All of them had to cancel. Jeremy had night classes that started. If I'd have known that, I would have filmed both of them back to back. He had night classes start the next week or something, so he was out. Ryan had to duck out last minute. Something popped up for him that he's attending, personal matter he had to deal with, and then Meg just emailed me, and she was flying in from Japan, so she is not in yet. So unfortunately, they could not make it, but that's okay because Noah's here.
Yeah, I was, last choice, emergency.
You weren't the last. Actually, when Jeremy was the one who told me that he couldn't make it, the other two said yes. Meg told me she'd be flying in that night, but she thinks she can make it in time. But of course, plane delays are something that happens, But she thought she can make it, and so did Ryan. And then, of course, both of them, earlier today and then now, have both officially. And they didn't know that Noah was coming. I didn't tell them that I had a replay. They didn't know that Jeremy couldn't make it. But Noah's here for a reason to continue my discussion now, not our discussion from the last time, but in the last episode, we discussed the 3 movies and the TV show. And we spent a little bit more time than I thought we would on it, which is fine. But I don't like the show to go longer than an hour, so I had to cut it there. And I thought we'd come back. Jeremy's been reviewing the comic books a lot. You've been doing a lot of the novels. You've been doing the novels for quite some time. And I did want to talk about the expanded universe of Indiana Jones, because there was one. I don't know if many people know that, but it was kind of done the same way. And you did a stream a few weeks ago, right, on your channel, marking the chronology.
Exactly.
Yeah, of Indiana Jones. And this is something that George Lucas had written out, where Indy was, what he was doing, what you could and couldn't do. I mean, he was answering the same little sheets that he did for the Star Wars expanded universe. And people don't realize, I don't recall how many books they had. Do you?
In the US, 12.
12. Okay, so just 12 books, and then they had some extra ones in Germany?
Exactly. So 12 books by Bantam in the 90s. And at the same time, 8 books German exclusive. And then under Del Rey, they released 1 original novel and the novelization of Crystal Skull.
Okay, so see, there's not that many. And there was a young adult series for Young Indiana Jones. And then there was a list of comic books, old comic books by Marvel, and then some newer ones too.
Yeah, by Dark Horse.
I'm sorry?
By Dark Horse.
By Dark Horse. And according to Jeremy, they all fit in continuity, if anyone's been watching Stupid Chainsaw Productions. I would also say you need to watch Noah's channel, because he's actually been reviewing these books, giving you some in-depth reviews about what's going on with it, what he likes, what he doesn't like. And so why don't you just kind of give an overall synopsis on the book? Well, just tell us about the books you've read so far and what your thoughts have been.
All right, so I'm 8 books in. And so the thing with the Bantam books, they switched authors a couple of times. The first 6 books are written by Rob McGregor, who did the Last Crusade novelization, which was pretty great.
And I read the first 2 of those, and I thought they were fine. I thought about getting into it and reading them all, but they weren't grabbing me. They're fine, but they're not like, oh my God. It's not like Timothy Zahn when you read his first Heir of the Empire, you're like, I got to read everything, And so that after reading the first 2, I did. I had everything saved up to just press enter and buy the whole collection, all the trade paperbacks, all the young adult books, all the novels. Well, I didn't know about the German novels, but all the English novels. And I think at the time it was only going to cost me $400, but I decided not to do it. But so you started reading these, and who was after McGregor?
So after the 6 McGregor books, there was Martin Caden, who only did 2, and then the last 4 books were written by Max McCoy.
Okay. Do you have a favorite author so far?
Definitely Rob McGregor, because I recently finished his 6-book series, which they work together like pretty damn well. And his final book, it does feel like a big finale, because that's like
Oh, really?
The first time we get mentions of like the Nazis and Hitler, which
Mhm.
obviously is a thing in the movie trilogy.
Yeah.
Because his book series, they start in 1922, I want to say, and they end in 1929.
So taking place shortly after or around the time of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles with Sean
Mhm.
Patrick Flannery.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's
Mm.
after. I haven't seen the show, but I think it's after.
Okay, yeah, because it stopped right after World War One.
Mhm.
They had like one or two little adventures right after the war, and that's where the show ended.
Yeah, so that was fun, going through that chronologically, and
Now,
in between some of the books, you can put in some of the comics, which, as I looked it up, the timeline seems to be pretty clear.
yeah,
It's not like like Star Wars we have with the Rebellion era stuff, where it does get
everything's
messy.
crowded here and here and here. Like a billion things happened this one year. Yeah,
Mhm.
this is what I heard. I heard that George Lucas wrote out a entire timeline of where Indy is every year or what he's doing.
Mm.
I heard it was that because there were like 70 other episodes of Young Indiana Jones to go, and it was supposed to continue all the way up into not Last Crusade, Temple of Doom, which is the first chronological
Mhm.
ending. And that was the whole idea of doing the TV show, but it didn't come to fruition. But he had spots on here's Indy, he's in Russia during this time, he's over in India during this or whatnot. And so there's a very clear goal there. Now, Ewan McGregor, wow, wow. What's his first name?
Rob.
Rob McGregor. Okay,
Mhm.
so he wrote the Genesis Deluge, correct?
Correct. That's book number 4.
Okay, now I hear from every fan that that is the best book. Is it
So far, I would agree. Yeah.
so far? Okay, you would agree. Okay, so what makes that one the best?
It's hard
What's
to
it
tell.
about?
I think all the elements just come together really well in that one.
Like at
Because
this
it is.
time, he's already written 3 Indiana Jones books.
Hmm.
He kind of knows the character.
Oh
He's
yeah.
kind of gotten in the swing of it.
Hmm.
Because see, now you got
Definitely.
me thinking. Those first 2 books they came out close together. I think publication wise.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first 2 did, I think, because that was what he wrote at the beginning, just kind of warming up. And as he wrote more books, it looks like he became more familiar with that character.
Hmm. For sure.
So Genesis Deluge, go ahead.
Okay, I think the elements come together better in that one.
What's the
Like
MacGuffin? What's
the
he?
MacGuffin is Noah's Ark.
Okay,
They're gonna find it, which obviously like in the movies, a religious artifact and stuff. The journey there is fun. The bad guys are fun. We have like an ancient like secret organization as well. We have
of course.
a part of it. Indy is teaming up with an old friend of his who's like a mobster in like Chicago, and
Hmm.
that's where he also runs into Al Capone because, as we know, Indiana Jones is just Forrest Gumping all
Yeah,
over the place.
he's met every popular person ever.
Hmm.
So, and that's what I heard. I hear from everyone the Genesis Deluge is the best. Now, if you were telling someone if they said, "Hey, no, I want to start reading Indiana Jones," do they start with the first McGregor book, or do they start
Mm.
somewhere else? Where would you guide them?
If you want to start with a bang, you can read Genesis Deluge as a standalone. But the fun thing is, which I discovered upon reading it, those 6 books are absolutely connected, like beyond just small references. Especially
They
the
build
first
upon
3.
each other for one big story arc.
Yeah,
Okay.
especially the
Yeah.
first 3 books, he connects them with the character of Merlin, the magician,
I remember
which,
that.
yeah, gets kind of silly because Indy meets him twice in person, which is kind of
Yeah.
awesome, but yeah.
So, did you read any of the comic books?
I've started the original Marvel series, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm like 8 issues in, and it has been pretty fun. And what's amazing, all of it takes place in 1936, right
Okay.
after Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, wow.
And Marion is still in it.
Well, according to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they spent time together and
Yep.
did some adventures before they parted ways. So it still ties in. I know that Jeremy couldn't be here, but he told me that he's either by accident or on purpose. The comic books are pretty solid with the rest of the continuity, even including the movies. It's like, now we know that George Lucas loved reading comic books. He didn't read many EU books if he did, but he read a lot of the comic books. We know that because a lot of people said he read comic books at Lucasfilm. He probably read the Indiana Jones stuff too. And so that's in the back of his head. This stuff is canon and everything, because this is something that Disney didn't get away with, was this canon. They didn't do away with the expanded universe of Indiana Jones, but that's because there wasn't much one. Now, there's one book you failed to mention, Steve Perry's novel.
Oh, Army of the Dead.
Now, have you read this one yet?
Not yet. I'm saving that for last. Well, almost. There's something fun I'm going to get to.
I'm not spoiling anything of it, but what I've heard is that that was supposed to be the great revival for Indiana Jones novels. They kind of retired Indiana Jones. That's Del Rey, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and Del Rey said, you know what? We got Indiana Jones. Let's try to strike gold here. And so they got Steve Perry, who is a Star Wars author, known for kicking off, great series too. They're trying to get that crossover. People who love Steve Perry will probably pick up this book too. I'll be honest, I thought about picking it up back in the day, but I was like, nah, just keep with Star Wars. And what I heard is it's terrible.
Yeah, that's also what I've heard.
And the sales were bad for it too. And it just that just stopped any more expanded universe for Indiana Jones. So I feel bad because I'm sure there's a ton of, I'm sure they're out there, these hardcore Indiana Jones fans that can't get enough of his adventures. But again, I guess I should have had Jeremy give me some notes. But he was saying it was strongly connected. They felt like everything was strongly connected together. Have you experienced the same thing? Have you seen a strong connection between the books so far?
Between the books, definitely. With the comics, I mean, the comic series obviously has continuity. I haven't checked out the Dark Horse ones that Jeremy has reviewed. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of that kind of would contradict is the MacGuffins in each story. Because there seems to be some, where they use the same one every now and then. Because Jeremy told me the comics, he finds the Philosopher's Stone, which is like multiple stones in the comic.
Yeah.
And there's also a book called Indiana Jones and the Philosopher's Stone. That's my next read, actually. So I'm curious to see it can fit. Probably.
Well, maybe he finds 2 Philosopher's Stones.
Yeah, which is also fun because the 4 Max McCoy books have like this storyline about a crystal skull that Indy finds.
Shut up.
Yeah, and I double-checked
that goes in line with the movie where he says, I've seen one of these.
Yep.
Holy
and I double-checked.
cow.
Indy came across a bunch of crystal skulls. It's really fun.
Well, George Lucas was obsessed with the crystal skull theory. He wanted to have a Young Indiana Jones Chronicles episode on it too. At the time, he was obsessed with it.
Yeah, but that's just an amazing thing.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible.
What's also fun?
Have you noticed any other incredible? Because one of the things we were talking about when we talk about Young Indiana Jones is there was an episode in there that I'd totally forgotten. It's called The Eye of the Peacock. I was like, okay, they're looking for this big giant diamond that went inside the Eye of the Peacock. Indiana Jones gives up on it, but his friend says, I'm going to keep pursuing it. Well, it was just a throwaway episode, one of the last episodes they made. And after that, I went and watched Temple of Doom, where Indy is that diamond is the Eye of the Peacock. That was, now the movies had already come out by then, but that's what Young Indiana Jones was telling you because the guy shows him a replica, and that's the exact same diamond that he has in the beginning of Temple of Doom. He's finally completing his quest for the Eye of the Peacock, and I was like, shut up! I didn't even realize all the connections that Young Indiana Jones. In fact, King of the Crystal Skull even references young Indiana Jones when he tells Mutt that I work for, I can't think of the guy's name.
Pancho Villa?
No, the band. So what?
Pancho Villa?
Yeah, Pancho Villa. He went, you were in Pancho Villa's gang, who actually he captured me, and then I willingly joined his gang for a few years before I left. And you think it's a joke, but no, that's the entire episode of Young Indiana Jones. I was like, shut up. I'm just so happy that I just see so many connections that even, I mean, I'm not big on the Indiana Jones expanded universe, of course, but there seems to have been a lot of connections like that.
Yeah, and one that sadly didn't happen in the Indiana Jones show, because we have old eye patch Indy in the show, which is fun.
Yes, which
And he
they
has his
got
own.
rid of. They cut him out of the DVD releases, but I used to watch it when it aired.
Thankfully, it's all on YouTube still.
Yeah, it's all those episodes are, yeah.
But old Indy, so apparently he mentions he has a bunch of kids, like more than one, which again, that leaves room for Crystal Skull. But originally, George Lucas was like, for Crystal Skull, he wanted Indy to have a daughter, like he does in the show, as the old man.
Right.
But then Steven Spielberg was like, no, I don't like that idea.
No, we're going to give him Roundhouse. Oh, my goodness. So, if they, you haven't read all the comic books yet, but you're reading through those. So the other question I have for you is the young adult. I know nothing about now the young adult. When I say young adult books, they're based off the Young Indiana Jones series. Of him being a boy. This is not uncommon because back then they were probably doing Junior J nights, Galaxy of Fear, stuff like that. It was from Scholastic back in the late 80s, early 90s. They did these. There's like, I can't remember how many, 10 or 16. I can't remember. There's a couple. There's a couple, number. 14. But they're small little adventures, and it just seems to be him as a kid, which I'm not really interested in. Do you plan on getting those too, or just stopping with the comic books and novels?
If I can find them, I guess I would read them. Because I know a bunch of them, like one series is just based on the show in the sense that they adapt the episodes for young readers. But the other one is like original stories in that time frame, which sounds more interesting at least, because it's original stuff. But what's interesting there, the YA stuff also has like French exclusive novels.
Really?
Yeah, that's the interesting stuff with the indie expanded adventures. Because unlike Star Wars, they didn't just get like American authors to write the books for one market. They got just stuff for the French people. The French people got exclusive YA novels and comics. And then the Germans just got 8 novels.
They're a lot looser with the copyrights for Indiana Jones than they were for Star Wars, because they're very strict on, we all know about the Hungarian Han Solo books that were not authorized. But how cool would it have been if Star Wars license would have been the same way, and there were like, 12 German books that we never received, and 6 books from France that were never brought out anywhere else, one from Turkey or whatnot. All of these translated books that we could be enjoying these days. So what was the story behind the German? Have you read the German books?
Not yet. They are later on my reading list, but
okay. So I'm guessing they take place within the timeline too.
Yes, they're absolutely canon, because I got the James Luceno reference book that he wrote for Crystal Skull's release, and he directly mentions them, like they are on the timeline. And
wow,
the main series by Bantam takes place all before the trilogy, but the German books take place after Last Crusade.
That's smart. There's a lot more places he can go and things he can do in the 40s.
Definitely. And what's especially interesting there, I haven't read it yet, but apparently one of them already deals with aliens.
Of course, he's been everywhere. He's done everything. So I can see there's some other story, because they didn't know about Kingdom of the Crystal Skull ever coming out. Real quick here, now that I'm talking about these, what are you going to get the French ones though? Real quick, I got to ask that one.
For the French ones, I'm looking for the comics.
Okay,
definitely. And I think I got one of the YA books like translated into English.
Okay. So in a nutshell, since we didn't get you on the first stream here, I'll go through the movies with you. You never saw the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. I understand that. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
My rating?
The movie.
Great movie, but it suffers from the same thing that the original Star Wars suffers from, which is I've seen it so many times it gets boring.
The same plot and everything. Gotcha. I understand. I can't fault it for that just based on its age, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. I mean, obviously respected for being like, the one that starts the franchise and everything.
Of course. Last Crusade.
Last Crusade, probably still the best just because, Sean Connery.
Still the best. Sean Connery is good, and I'll be honest, for a while I always said that was the best, but I've gone back to Raiders of the Lost Ark. But Last Crusade, my wife and I just recently watched these a few months ago, and Last Crusade is just great. It's just great. It's got great humor, great timing, great action. There's no slow parts in it. It just moves, and it's smooth too. It doesn't feel It doesn't feel like it's jumping to scenes,
Mhm.
even though it kind of is. There's this scene, then this scene, then this scene. All these things happen back to back. What about Temple of Doom?
Temple of Doom, I rewatched it recently. So it's close between Last Crusade and Temple of Doom for me.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I just recently rewatched it too. And that's the most hated of the trilogy. But to be honest, it is not a bad movie. It is actually a really good movie. As a kid, we weren't allowed to see it because that was the dark one. And my parents never let us watch it. So the only time we got to watch it is when we went over to my grandmother's house, and she had them all on VHS, and my mom didn't know which was which. And so we pop in Temple of Doom all day long and watch that one. And Short Round, he was us. It was a kid. A kid can hang out with Indy, and he was great. He wasn't annoying. You know how some of these kids are like all annoying and everything? No, he's hilarious. He's funny. He feels real. There's all this humor that I just never realized, even watching it this time. His face during the dinner, all the food, he's dropping his mouth, opening his eyes, he's dropping his spoon. His mouth is, but he's off to the side. He's not the center of the joke. You're supposed to be watching what's her name?
Willie Scott.
Willie. Yeah, you're supposed to be watching Willie and not him. But if you look at him to the side, he's going, it's just making great faces. I was like, this is hilarious. And it's such a fun, and it looks good. My wife even commented when she was like, you know what? She went, this isn't the best one, but the set is really impressive. I said, no, everything's great on this. I said, I've been really enjoying this one. The set looks great.
Yeah, I will keep saying it. It is really underrated.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have Kingdom of the Crystal Skull,
which I also rewatched recently, and my opinion didn't change much.
I didn't change that much. I was like, wow, this is still not that good. And it's still the same things there's some things I like about it. Some stuff in the beginning's okay. But when you get to the swinging monkey thing, sorry, it looks awful. It looks beyond terrible. And then I always had a problem with those ants. Those ants looked fake from the first time I saw it in theaters. I've only seen this movie twice in my entire life. Once in theaters and once just like a month ago. I hadn't seen it since it came out in theaters. So I finally watched it. Ryan defends it. He thinks it's better than Temple of Doom. And I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is not better than Temple of Doom. But now that we talked about these 4 movies, how are the novelizations?
Okay. The first one is excellent. Last Crusade, I would almost say is better than the movie, because McGregor, he expands on the stuff in the film, and I just really enjoyed that.
Is it? And this is McGregor, you're saying?
Yeah, his first book.
Wow.
Because I don't know,
he expands upon it. What does he do?
He goes more into the Holy Grail, for example, and the rules and stuff and what it does. He goes more into Indy's relationship with his dad and stuff. And I think it's just because it's the best written of the movies, I guess. So he has good material to work with, and he does, builds up upon it. So
more interaction between Indy and his dad.
Yeah. And just in general, I think
that's comedy gold right there. That stuff writes itself.
But then the Temple of Doom one is written by James Caan, who did Return of the Jedi as well.
Jedi, yeah.
Which is my favorite novelization. And he does similar here, where he just takes a couple of chapters just going into the backstories of Willie Scott and Short Round. And that's just the most fascinating stuff.
I like it because those characters don't get a backstory, so he provides one for them.
Yeah. I think it has how Short Round met Indy and his daily life, and that's just fun.
Another one, and maybe this is explained in a book or comic book later on, but Indy's friend who dies in the beginning of Temple of Doom. He goes, sorry, Indy. And who is that guy? What was his story? he and Indy were some fast friends, I guess.
I've looked that up recently. I think he is in something for sure.
Okay, because that would be a shame if his backstory wasn't given. How they became partners or friends, and maybe they'd been on several adventures together. I always imagined, because when we watched Temple of Doom, I'd forgot about that. I'd forgot about one of his friends had died, so that was interesting. All right, so next novelization, which one are you bringing out next?
Novelization? Oh, you mean the Crystal Skull one?
The Crystal Skull one. How's that one?
I haven't read
it better
yet.
than the movie?
Let's see. I haven't read it yet, but I mean, it's
Who wrote
the biggest novelization.
Oh, that is a thick one.
James Rowlands.
Okay.
And I'm excited because apparently he worked with George Lucas and Spielberg on this, and they gave him like pretty clear directions what to do and what not to do. It's similar to like Star Wars. Like Marion was off the charts. Like you can't do anything with her. Like after Raiders, so he couldn't really get into like the backstory, I guess.
Oh.
There was something about him wanting to expand on the Pancho Villa storyline. So I don't know if he did or if that was the thing where George was like, no, that's fine, don't touch that. But yeah,
okay.
there you go.
I did like in King of the Crystal Skull. It was a good line. There were many loves. He said, "Well, what happened to them?" He said, "They were honey, they weren't you," or whatever. That was a good line. From Marion. And okay, so you haven't read that one yet. What about Raiders of the Lost Ark novelization?
Oh, the Raiders. It's decent. I remember reading it for like the book club.
Who wrote that
one? Campbell Black.
Oh, okay, don't know that one.
Yeah, it's the shortest one, surprisingly.
Did he just mail it in and just write the
I think
the movie?
Pretty much, but he goes a bit more in depth, and I think it's well written. I think this is worth your time as a fan.
Okay, all right. And those are all newer looking books, so these have been reprinted.
Yeah, these have been re-released for Crystal Skull coming out.
Oh, okay, so they got re-released. That's smart. Now, did they do a book for Dial of Destiny?
Not that I know of. Nothing.
Wow, they're just done doing novelizations to books.
Yeah, I mean, movies. If you think about like even Crystal Skull, the movie came out. It got like the toy line with Lego and stuff.
It was a big.
It got Army of the Dead. It got comics by Dark Horse, and the novelization. But yeah, Dial of Destiny. It's just like nothing. You get the movie. You get 3 Lego sets, which are all based on the original trilogy. That's it.
That's weird because you think they'd ask their partners, say, "Hey, now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot. We're bringing out a new India film. Bring out a prequel comic that kind of leads up to the movie or something." They've done stuff like this before for other stuff. That'd be interesting, but they didn't do anything like that then. Nope. So they're not making Indiana Jones comic books either currently.
Nope. It's all done. And that's what's so interesting about it, because after not after Crystal Skull, after the Expanded Universe ended in 2014, people asked Leland Shee, what does this mean, with Indy? Because that's also like a Lucasfilm property. Are those stories still canon? Is that Expanded Universe still a thing? And she was like, I guess. Like, he didn't even give a clear answer. He was like, let's wait until the next movie is out. And from what I've been told, since I haven't seen it yet, it still fits. Like, no problem. It doesn't contradict, apparently.
Yeah, and we'll go ahead and shift into the new movie here, because this is what Jeremy told me. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, and by the way, Jeremy, I did see it. I was my big surprise I was going to give you this month. I did see it, actually. But Jeremy told me that he watched and he thinks it does fit. And he said it looks like it fits. I don't see any contradictions. He said, I haven't read everything either. He said, but from what I'm looking at, because it takes place in the future, it's probably the latest we've ever seen India. It's 1969 or something, right?
Yep.
So I mean, it's
the farthest in the future if we don't count Eye Patch Indy, which is 1993.
Which is 1993, and he's got to be 100 years old by then, which is great.
Well, he was born in 1899, so
1899. So he's what, 94? 94. Okay, mm-hmm. But I have an excuse for why he's still able to move around like that at 94. He drank from the Grail, baby. he can live forever, he wasn't constantly drinking like the knight, so he's not going to live to be hundreds of years old, but he drank from the cup once, which is going to give him an extended life. So Indy could still be around today at 120, maybe dying off, but I did see Dial of Destiny. I think it is, without giving you spoilers, I think it is horrendous. For a few reasons. One, still not giving you spoilers here. You've heard there's a young Indiana Jones at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, a scene that should go maybe 5-7 minutes, but instead decides to go 35 minutes because we've got the time, and it overstays its welcome. And the CGI is so bad at times it looks like you're playing a video game. Whenever he runs, it looks like one of those running characters from a video game. You're like, what? Because every time he ran, I was like, what is going on? And he was running on a train that's moving, but his hat, perfectly still. Never falls off, never wavers. Just, I mean, it's like CGI. They don't even think about that. Jurassic Park. Look at the CGI in that. I fell out of my chair when I first saw that. I said, oh my God, they dug up dinosaurs. That's really what I said. How did they do this? Did they find an actual dinosaur? What is going on here? I couldn't believe what I was seeing on the screen because, the dinosaur grabs the tree. The tree moves. Maybe the tree is CGI too, but the whole time I was like, this looks real. They found, the first time, and that was back in 1993, and it still looks better than most of the stuff that we have today.
Yeah, because back then, you have to mix CGI with practical effects, and that just sells the illusion. And with this,
oh man, does it?
What would have been better? Because as far as I know, it's a CGI Harrison Ford running on a CGI train. Wouldn't it have been just easier hiring like a young actor who looks like Ford, like doing Anthony Ingruber,
and doing cutaways? The cutaways where you're following the train and having them punch each other they're not close-ups. Yes, you could have done that for. You just saved the company $100 million by not shooting it that way. I mean, it's ridiculous the amount of money that got spent.
But let me ask you: did they also do something to Harrison's voice to make him sound younger, or is he still?
Ryan pointed out to me, and I heard it too. It's young Harrison Ford, so I mean that part looks okay, but when he starts to talk, it's old Harrison Ford. Oh, God. I'm like, no. And see, I had just finished watching the trilogy. And so I jumped right into this one, watching all those movies the week of, and then that weekend going to see the movie and going, oh, you can tell it's old man Harrison Ford. And the thing is, changing someone's voice, making them sound younger, is the easiest thing to do in movies with auto-tune and whatnot. It's the simplest thing. For Val Kilmer's voice in Top Gun and stuff like that, they can do this, but they didn't. And I was like, what is going on? And that scene is entirely too long. I sat there for a while. I was like, how long is this scene going to go? Plus, I know Ryan made a billion comments about this, so I'm sad he's not here, but he hated that girl. And this is before I saw the movie, the girl that's with Indiana Jones, his goddaughter. And he kept talking about how she's a disaster. Woke stuff aside, she has got to be the worst side character in an Indiana Jones movie ever. I will take every weak character, and there was a couple of weak characters from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, over her. It makes no sense why Indiana Jones would be teaming up with her. She leaves Indiana Jones to die. Not a mistake. Not say, I knew you could get out of this, or here's the key, and he has to get the key to unlock. No, she purposely locks him in a room where she knows he is going to die.
Jesus.
She leaves him to die on purpose. Not like I know you'll get out of it. You just got to find another way out or something. The lovable bandit. The Catwoman or the whatever. Figure it out for yourself. She's the lovable thief. That you're like, oh, curses, you stole my, escape pod. Now I got to find another one. No, it was like, you're going to die now. And you're going to die because of me. And she did it on purpose. It wasn't like an accident that screwed Indiana Jones, but yet Yeah, you kill this woman. You shoot her with your pistol. She's evil. But yet we're supposed to, but they force feed you and saying, oh, she's lovable. It has, I'm sure, have you talked to anyone about this movie?
Yep. I think I know the big plot point at the end.
The dial of destiny can change time or send you back in time.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of the dial of destiny. I like the idea of that you have to get the.
I like the idea because I was thinking of a way better plot. Because I know the plot is like the Mads Mikkelsen Nazi guy trying to kill Hitler and like take his place.
Take his place.
And I was thinking, you know what would be fun, but they would never do it? The villain tries to do that, and now Indiana Jones has to save Hitler's life, to save the timeline.
That would be great. That's great. I love that. That's a better story. You should have written for him. But the thing is though that what is it? Of course they go back in time, and it's such an out of character moment for Indiana Jones. That it's just dumb. By the way, they deconstruct the character like they've done everything. You know, he can't be happily married like he was in Crystal Skull. We got to tear that apart. They try to throw something together in the very last 30 seconds of the film. And at that point, who cares? Why? Why are they trying to? Because we're trying to give him a fast, happy ending. And Marion, the actress, said that originally Spielberg told her, when Spielberg was involved, she was going to be on this adventure with Indy. And how much do you know about this movie?
I know most of the spoilery stuff. I know at the end there's like a scene between the two of them reuniting.
So, Mutt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vietnam.
Mutt, spoilers, everyone. Mutt dies, and that's what kind of, they're never the same. Well, how about this? You keep Mutt dead. I don't mind that Mutt's dead. I don't care for Shia LaBeouf anyway. But Mutt's dead. They're having problems at home. They don't speak to each other. They're kind of dead inside. Indy gets a chance to go on an adventure, and Marion goes, you should go. He goes, all right. And as he gets his bags packed, he goes to the door, and there she is with her bags going, well, I didn't say I was staying here, and they get to kind of reinvigorate their life together as they go on this adventure together. It's perfect because that's the healing that they both need. And it ties completely, according to your Marvel comic stuff, it ties completely into, they can even reference, for super fans, reference a Marvel comic adventure. Remember the time we did this? Hush it. That's not the time, or maybe that's how they come up to solve something. What about the time we did this? You're right. It's talking about all these adventures they had from the old comic books. We're all about trying to make connections. Comic book movies always give throwaways to old comic books. Like, hey, remember this? Remember that? You stole this from the comic book. But just think how awesome that would have been. And I like that. We'll rewrite Dial of Destiny right here. That's what it is. They're going after the Dial of Destiny. Marion wants it secretly. I mean, hold on. So they have to save Hitler. I'm all for that. Okay? They save Hitler. The Nazi dies, but they've got to get that rip in time's about to fall. And guess what? The dial is maybe about to fall out too. And they're about to lose the dial in the past. Marion wants the dial to bring Mutt back. But Indy has to say, no, we have to let this die. Or maybe Indy wants it. And Marion says, Indiana. just like in Last Crusade. Let it go. Even though she loves Mutt too, she knows we cannot change the past. We can't change the past. And then it just brings them together and says, there's nothing we can do about the past. We can sure bank on the future. And what a beautiful story this would be. Honestly, I like the idea of him saving Hitler. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, throw in Short Round while you're at it, since the actor has a comeback right now.
Oh, they have the poor man Short Round in this movie. And that kid it's like, kid, can you fly a plane? No, but I can learn. And then, of course, the next thing, he's flying a plane. Whoa! Okay, no. Short Round is an actor that's still around today. He's a very good actor. Have you seen Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Not yet, but I've heard he's good in it.
He's great. He's the only good thing in it. He's excellent. He's funny. He can do action. He can really do karate. So you put him in it, and he goes, Dr. Jones, hello. Like he's back too, but yet he's old enough to be in the movie. He can be your action star. He will be the action star. Indy sits back and lets him do the big action scenes, while now Indiana Jones reverts to the role of senior. He's the dad with the old gimmicks. Where'd you learn that? From my dad. That'd have been great. Yeah. And then Short
That would
Round.
have been a great sequel to Temple of Doom, since they have a father-son relationship.
The Dial of Destiny is an Oriental MacGuffin. And that's why Short Round knows about it. Because he became an archaeologist to follow his idol, Indiana. And he's always been looking. Indy hasn't been looking for the Dial of Destiny. Short Round has. So,
and that's how how he and Marion get caught up in the adventure.
When he finds out the Nazis, this is great. When he finds out the Nazis are looking for the Dial of Destiny, he went, I know a guy. He said, I don't know much about it, but I know a guy. And there's Short Round. And so now the adventure continues with him, Short Round, Marion, and it ties all the original trilogy together, has this big adventure where they go in, secretly Indy wants the dial to revert back to get his son. Because the thing is, that's never touched in the movie. And he's mourning his son. Well, wouldn't you want to reset the Dial of Destiny, go get your son, or tell him not to go to Nam or whatever, So you could even have that backstory that he wants it too for himself. But he knows that you can't change, or you shouldn't change the past. I got a little fly around here. But wow, what a great storyline that could have been. Yeah. And see, the thing is, we're not the smartest people in the world, and even we can come up with a better story than the just absolute. I mean, honestly, it's like 2.5 hours long, which is an hour and 50 minutes longer than it should have been. Really,
indie movies need to be short because they are based on these old serials, which is
old Alan Quartermain serial.
Normal scene action.
An hour and a half, one action scene after the next. He goes from point to point to point to point to point. And that's all you need. That's really all you need. We want to be entertained. In the first 3 movies, there isn't one moment where you say, keep it running, I got to go to the bathroom. No, you want to watch them all. There's not one moment you're like, hold on, let me see who texts me. I'm checking my email while it's playing. There's not a scene like that in the movie. And so the thing is, though, you're like, okay, well, there is plenty of those scenes in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But, and by the way, I have no problem with nuking the fridge. I actually like that scene. That was a fun scene for me. But either way, Dial of Destiny, there's not much to love here. And the whole time I'm watching this, the whole time I was thinking, why isn't this Short Round? Why isn't Marion here? This would be perfect if this is the story they're setting up. Why this girl is so annoying. What makes her likable? Kathleen Kennedy goes, she was not, when the movie was being made, she was really impressed with this girl. Maybe a spinoff. They always say that, right? Maybe a spinoff. Why? Did you not watch the dailies? She's annoying. She's annoying. A little smarty know-it-all pants who, was involved with this prince one time. She gets slapped, and she's like the coolest of the cools. She was a spy for these people. She was a whatever for these people. She was a vandal, a little traitor over here. She's always in trouble. That's her. She's a go-getter. Yeah, because there was a billion of those back in the 60s. No, there wasn't. There was Marion. Marion would have been perfect for this role. Maybe she has some connections that Indiana Jones doesn't, based on her dad. Her dad may have had some other friends. Honestly, there's a billion things you could have done with this. Now, John David Reyes, what's his name?
John Rhys Davis.
John Rhys Davis, that's his name. He's cameoed in this, and the dude's too old. I thought he was going to break just being in the film. It's like looking at Patrick Stewart. I'm like, don't break him. He's fragile, please. But I felt that with John Rhys Davis too. But you could have him, do his little cameo scene. I had no problem with that. I don't think there's anyone else alive that you'd bring back into these. I mean, there's no reason to bring Willie back. So, Short Round is the perfect person to bring back for Temple of Doom. And then you have this great, and they oddly make a joke referencing Temple of Doom in this movie. It's really weird. It's like, okay, that's okay. I mean, it's funny, I guess, but why are we referencing Temple of Doom? But I don't know. Overall, I'd be interested in your thoughts on it. But I did not like it. It's way too long. It's plotting. The characters outside of Indiana Jones are not lovable. Indy can't do. Indy had some comedic moments in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when he tries to do the whip and swing and he comes up short. That was funny because he's getting old.
Yeah, and that's something I realized rewatching Crystal Skull, because I remember everybody saying, "Oh my God, that's old Indy." Comparing that to Dial of Destiny, Harrison Ford looked awesome in Crystal Skull.
Yes,
I believe him during the action scenes there.
Yeah, he did just the right amount of action scenes. He was like when he's fighting the big guy toward the end, that guy's kicking Indy's ass. The only reason Indy wins is Indy outsmarts him and tricks him to get out. The Crystal Skull is keeping all the man-eating ants away, but he kind of throws them in outside of that realm, and the ants get him. Mm-hmm. But Indy could not beat him like he could back in the day. Like he could take those hits on the big guy and whop up on the big guy. But this time he had to outsmart him because he was getting whooped bad. And I was like, and he's faced bigger guys before. But the thing is, though, they were just showing, hey, Indy's not as strong now. And I enjoyed that. There's a scene where after the radioactive stuff, they pick him up and they're scrubbing him down. He's like this. And someone brings the scrub brush down here and brings the stick out. I was like, that's funny. So even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull made me laugh a little bit. There's not a funny scene in Dial of Destiny. And when they're trying to be funny, I was like, are we supposed to laugh? I remember during the movie, I turned to my wife and went, was that supposed to be a joke? And she went, I don't get it. I said, I think they had a comedic pause for it to be a joke, but it's not funny. Nothing that's a shame. And that, to be honest, when Spielberg said, I'm out, I'm not going to direct the movie, that's when I knew this is going to be garbage. If Spielberg would have directed it, I have no doubt we would have had a decent, maybe even better film than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, because a lot of that was George's influence, right? A lot of the writing, the stuff he wanted. And Spielberg did it because that's his buddy. But if Spielberg gets to make his own film, which why don't you let one of the greatest directors in Hollywood make his own film on Indiana Jones? They're going to keep true to the character. But Lucasfilm has to meddle, and they are the Galactus of IPs. They just destroy worlds. They destroy world. How can we destroy Willow? Check. Destroy Star Wars? Easy. Destroy Indiana Jones? Done.
That's like the main three franchises Lucasfilm has. And Willow, I'm just amazed they took the show off Disney Plus.
Did you even watch the show?
No.
I never even watched it because people who, obviously Ryan is not a big fan. We all know why. But the thing is, people who don't even care about the culture war told me it's horrible. They were excited for a Willow show like I was, and they said, Matt, don't watch. It's terrible. It's awful. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So they've ruined every intellectual property. Because to be fair, I mean, yes, this was supposed to be the last one. This was Harrison Ford's last ride. But you and I both know that thing makes money. Money forces sequels. And if you would have done it the way we talked about it, I probably would have been happy for him to ride off into the sunset and that'd be it. Because Last Crusade is the best ending of a movie. And that's how Indiana Jones should have ended. The last thing we ever should have seen with Indiana Jones was him riding off into the sunset with his dad and his two friends. That was perfect. That was the perfect ending to a movie. That was better than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. It was Last Crusade had the best ending. Still today, when I watch it, I'm like, that's perfect. We want to see Indy in his prime riding off into the sunset, off to the next adventure. Great. But if we don't get to see it, at least we get to see two old fogies cope after their son's death and decide to live on life. And to be honest, if they do this right, then I push Indiana Jones into the 70s. I do a 1977 adventure because Harrison Ford is a lot older than Indiana Jones's character. So push it there, and then have Indiana Jones in the old folks' home of doom or whatever.
Well, but the one thing I will say about Dial of Destiny, once I watch it, it may be as terrible as it is. I'm just glad and really surprised that it doesn't screw up continuity, because before it came out, I was 100% sure they're gonna kill off Indy because that's the trend nowadays.
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
didn't. But yeah, so now, by the way, what makes the ending even funnier is if you remember old Eye Patch Indy. He has a family, like his daughter from another woman and her family. He is now old, he has an eye patch, so I guess he went up to more adventures. There's no mention of a wife, so Marion just died in between. So yeah, happy ending, everybody.
I think here's what I would really like, though. We'll also add to our ending to Dial of Destiny. In it, Indy does lose an eye and has to have the eye patch. She goes, "What do you think?" And she went, "Ooh, looks nice." And yeah, I think so. And it kind of just goes away. I mean, that'd be good too, to tie into that. But now he's not official canon, I don't think. Old Indy in that series isn't. I think when they wiped him from the DVD, they wiped out his continuity there. But it's a shame because it's an insult to the actor who portrayed him, because they're silly scenes. It's 2 minutes to set up the story that he's telling, and then 2 minutes to wrap up the story and wrap up whatever little adventure. And by the way, there is one, I can't remember, it's called The Blues or something. Or
Mystery of the Blues. Yeah,
Mystery
that's the one with Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. It's probably the worst Indiana Jones episode ever. But Indy, this takes place in 1952 or 1950.
I think it's just 1950, so 7 years before Crystal
Skull. It's in
Skull.
Nevada, 1950. And the movie Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is 57. I'm just going to tell you, in 7 years, Indy aged poorly.
Yep.
Because I mean, they put a little gray in his beard, but he was still young Indy, trying to play a older Indy, a guy in his 50s, and it wasn't working. Where 7 years later, he definitely looks like he's in his
50s. Probably the death of his dad and Marcus Brody, just everything.
All that kind of, yeah, you could say that kind of aged quickly, yeah, because that does, misery does, so yeah, could say that too. But I remember watching the episode and going, 1950. I was like, ooh. But and I mean, it's fun to see him, but it's a silly ending. But all of those were silly. I remember there's one where old Indiana Jones is digging into the mailbox, and a mailman says, "Hey, that's against the law. That's a federal offense." He went, "No, I dropped something in there. I need to get it back. You're not getting. That's now U.S. U.S. Postal Service property now, buddy." He's like, "Hey, don't tell me about whatever stealing. I used to, whatever, run with Pancho Villa." What? And then he tells the story. It goes in the back, and he narrates a little bit of it. And then at the end, the mailman's sitting there with him, and, wow. Everyone's impressed with old Indiana Jones stories.
My favorite part is I saw a clip where he talks to a guy in a hospital who's like racist against black people, and he tells him, "Let me tell you a story. When I was at war with the black folks,
Yeah, what they were like. Well, and this one, then as the mailman's talking to him, he's getting the mail out of the back. He goes, "Oh, is this yours?" And it's a sandwich. And he goes, "Yeah, thanks." Here you go. I guess the mailman. I guess the Postal Service can give you that back. And that's the ending. Because he's so stupid. When he put the mail in, he had his sandwich there too, and he just dropped his sandwich in there too with it. Oh, he probably pissed his pants while telling the story too. But you know what? I'm fine with the senile adventures of Indiana Jones. In fact, if they want to make stories that go into the 70s where he's on, in a wheelchair going after people, I'm fine with that too. But it looks like they're done with the expanded universe. It looks like Indiana Jones is officially dead. And you know what? They should be thankful, because Star Wars will never die. They're just going to drive it into the ground. How much further can they drive it into the ground? Only Ahsoka will let you know. So real quickly here for the next few minutes, we'll talk briefly about. See, look, it's a more civilized age, and now we're going back to Star Wars real quick here. Ahsoka, what are you going to watch this?
People on my Discord, they told me, okay, you're going to watch this live because we want your reaction to the first 1 or 2 episodes. And I said maybe because I have no interest whatsoever.
It's just gonna be you saying the F word for 2 hours.
Yeah, probably, and much worse.
I'd be interested if they show a scene where she trips over Huji, falls into a hole, breaks her neck, and dies, and then after the credits, we find out that the hole was dug by Hujibs because it's a latrine. That's all I want to see. If there is a scene where she dies shamefully, if she dies, which I doubt they'll kill her in this. Because
as Dave Filoni said, she's still alive after Rise of Skywalker, even.
Oh my gosh! Wait, wasn't her ghost in Rise of Skywalker? Didn't someone tell
me?
Yeah,
because you can hear her voice alongside the voice of other dead Jedi, but Filoni immediately came out and was like, that doesn't mean anything.
She lives forever.
Yep. She's literally part of the god.
The real chosen one. There was some more to that prophecy that says, and it won't be Skywalker, it will be Ahsoka. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Just awesome.
Just awesome. All right, so go ahead and tell people what's coming up on your channel for the month of September. What do people have to look forward to?
The big thing. I finished writing my Star Wars chronology, the entire history of Legends. So now I'm recording the German audiobook, essentially. I already uploaded part 1, which is like an hour and 30 minutes, and it's just like Dawn of the Jedi, essentially. And the second part is coming today in the evening, Friday evening. And it's also an hour and a half, and it's just Tales of the Jedi, basically, all of that. Yeah, and I think it will be like 60 hours when I'm done.
Woo! All right. Thinking of 60 hours, are you going to be reading Supernatural Encounters when it finally comes out?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, the books are, well, as of this recording, the books are getting labels and, packages are getting ready to be sent out. It's finally, after 4 years, finally here.
Nice.
To think I backed that thing before I even had kids. It's insane. But there you go. All right. Well, thanks for being on.
One last thing.
So go ahead.
One last thing.
No, please.
You mentioned the character of Wuhan. The guy who gets shot in Temple of Doom?
Yes.
And he was like, we were on many adventures. I just looked it up. He's in one of the novels, Indiana Jones and the Dinosaur Eggs, and he's in the video game, The Emperor's Tomb.
Oh.
So they got him covered.
Oh, wow. So you haven't read the Dinosaur Eggs yet, then?
That's coming up. That's it. One of the four.
That's exciting. That's going to be exciting for you. That short round's in it.
Yeah.
Wow. I know. I've heard about the dinosaur. Wow. Okay. And that's another thing. Did you play any of the video games real quick? Because I know that the Atlantis.
That reminds me. I forgot to mention. We got one new book this year. I have to drop off quick, but this is important. Rob McGregor. He was hired in like 2010 or something, to write a novelization for the video game Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings, but that got cancelled. And then he still finished the manuscript and everything. And over the years, he released it as like an audiobook or something, on his own. This year, he released the book itself as a PDF online for free.
Oh, wow.
So we got a new Indiana Jones novel, not by Lucasfilm, but by
some
the author.
Unpublished Indiana Jones that we've just gotten there. That's interesting. I didn't know that either. So there you go, folks. If you're really ripping to get some more Indiana Jones action, go ahead and download that one. So there it is. Well, Noah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for being on here. Folks, again, More Civilized Age. For the past 2 months, we've been talking about Indiana Jones. I have an idea of what's coming up next for More Civilized Age. And some special guests and some special ideas going on. I can't reveal right now because I don't really know what all the plans are, but definitely stay tuned here. Again, thank you, Noah, for sharing your extensive knowledge of the Indiana Jones expanded universe.
My pleasure.
All right, folks. We will